So in this segment, we're going to be discussing more about the summit, which is Brexiteers claim sellout after Tories discuss reapproachment with the EU. So this is hilarious, honestly, good stuff here. So prominent Brexit supporters have hit out at senior Conservative figures after the Observer revealed they had taken part in a private cross-party summit entitled, quote, "How can we make Brexit work better with our neighbours in Europe," end quote. And I think if you haven't watched the previous video, I'd recommend it. Sunak denies knowing about this conference, which has its own implications. He also crumpled when asked about it. So, Sunak denies knowing about it or saying that he sent Gove, which is fun. John Redwood and Nigel Farage, the former leader of the UK Independence Party, criticised those attending the summit. Redwood tweeted, quote, "Instead of talking of sellout at private conferences, the UK establishment needs to complete Brexit and use its freedoms," end quote. Farage meanwhile said, quote, "The full sellout of Brexit is underway. The Tory party never believed in it," end quote. And I got news for you, John. The establishment is pretty mythical, and in this case, I don't think it's them that are doing this. It seems more like a way to figure out what Labour's plans are with Brexit and see if there are any consensus with them, i.e. the Tory consensus with the Labour Party. They seem to be consulting businesses, banks and the defence sector. I think the cloak and dagger is there so that Brexiteers like Gove can be a bit more open about the Brexit issues and not have their words as easily turned against them. But this is, Brexiteers consuming each other. Gove, a Vote Leave leader, and Sunak, a guy who claims he voted for Brexit, are being attacked by Redwood and Farage. They still have not defined what they want from Brexit, but painting the Tory party as never believing in Brexit is a line he will use to push for the Reform Party. He will use that in the election, no doubt. This conference isn't even about reversing Brexit, it's just about a new approach to the EU, and yet it's got these guys scrambling. These Brexiteers scrambling, trying to figure out what they want to do. The Mail also reported comments from everyone's favourite Brexiteer, former Brexit negotiator and ex-cabinet minister Lord Frost the Iceman, who said, quote, "Brexit doesn't need fixing, it needs this Conservative government elected with a huge mandate on a Brexit programme to fully and enthusiastically embrace its advantages instead of leaving the field to those who never wanted it in the first place," end quote. So he's referring to Labour there. They come out with broad statements like this, but what exactly do they want the government to do? What is the difference between fixing an issue and embracing Brexit? If you say an issue is trade, for example, you can try and fix the issue by looking at areas where to help reduce export barriers by working with the EU. How do you embrace trade barriers? We tried exporting to other markets, but that's not really working. We can try and embrace the ability of financial service deregulation to compete with Singapore, sure. But then we will no doubt embrace the huge financial service crash after that. If Frost is interviewed, can a journalist actually ask him, what are these Brexit benefits? What does he want done specifically? And if you look at John Redwood said, "Get Brexit done, finish Brexit. What's left to do, Chief?" Because I guess he's referring to Northern Ireland, but, what more do they want? A source with knowledge of the summit told the Observer, quote, "The main thrust of it, i.e. the conference, was that Brexit is losing out, that Brexit is not delivering, our economy is in a weak position," end quote. Gove did not comment on the talks, although a source said he attended in his capacity as a governor of Ditchley, where it was held, so the building. This seems like nonsense. To argue he was there because of the area the talks were held in, they could have chosen most places that are semi-private. This was, I think, Oxfordshire. This is a dodge by saying he was there just because of the location as a formality. Given that Gove is denying that given that Sunak is denying he knew of the meeting, it's pretty clear what they're trying to do here. Really poor dodge from both of them. Those involved are understood to have talked at length about the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is under discussion between the UK and EU officials. I think this is happening because the Tories are worried they will need Labour votes to get any further protocol agreement through. So perhaps they're doing this to see if Labour will really back a further agreement on the protocol. Seems to make sense, given that if the ERG don't back it, Starmer said that if the Tories need Labour votes, they will help them with regards to anything on the protocol that will benefit Northern Ireland, really. The British government is hoping to reach a deal to overturn the protocol, which governs trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland within weeks, and that's from the article. And I'm sorry if I missed something. Like, when did the UK agree to overturn the protocol? Like, does the author mean the further deal on the protocol? Like, that can't be it, unless the wording here is very clumsy. Like, as far as I'm aware, there is no deal to overturn the protocol. Like, who are we working on a deal with to overturn the protocol? Maybe this is not the Guardian's best writer here. But point being is they did mention in the article about the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, which has been shelved. That might be what they're referring to, but that's not reaching a deal over that. It doesn't make sense. Really weird from the Guardian, and they didn't offer a correction either. Labour and the Tories are committed to keeping Britain out of the EU, and both say the country will stay out of the single market as well. However, members of both parties have talked about how they can repair relations with the EU even outside of those institutions. Bloomberg reported last week that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has asked his senior ministers to draw up plans for rebuilding links with the EU countries after years of acrimony. The Newswire reported that the plans focus on areas including defence, migration, trade, and energy. So I think this is just both parties, the Tories and Labour, trying to figure out what they can do as a third country to help, rebuild relations with the EU, which there are a few things you can do, but not a lot. Labour wants alignment with the EU, which in certain areas, which the Tories don't. The Tories wanted equivalency, which didn't happen, and that's kind of, I think, one of the major differences between the two. I'm not sure why Labour are at the meeting. We know that Labour MPs have public and private stances on Brexit and its impacts. All politicians do. But aside from talking about the protocol, what was the point of this conference? I guess Labour would learn more about the issues businesses are facing, but they should know most of them by now. Unless this was to secretly update Labour on the Northern Ireland Protocol, I genuinely don't get what's going on here. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.